tweeted after an FIR was filed by the Delhi police against him. And this is the tweet that he has put out. I've received an excerpt of the FIR. This is the first FIR I've seen that's not specifying what the crime is. Imagine an FIR about a murder where cops don't mention the weapon or that the victim bled to death. I don't know which specific remark of mine has attracted this FIR. So Asaduddin Owaisi responding to an FIR against him by the Delhi police. Now this has been put out as a tweet by Asaduddin Owaisi, in which he's questioning the basis on which the FIR has been lodged against him. He's questioning as to why it hasn't been specified what specific remark of his attracted that FIR against him. He's saying that this is pretty much like a crime being committed or a murder specifically being committed. This is an analogy he's drawing in his tweet, where the police doesn't mention the weapon or the fact that the victim bled to death. So basically he's raising a question about what the FIR is over. Maria Shakil is joining us with more on that. Maria, what is the basis on which this FIR has been lodged is the question Asaduddin Owaisi is asking. Do we have any further details on that count?
Yes, so Mr. Owaisi says that he has put out an excerpt of that FIR that has been filed against him, and he has raised multiple questions regarding this FIR. He says it appears that Delhi police lacks the courage to pursue cases against Yati, Nupur Sharma, Naveen Jindal, etc. That is why the delayed and weak response. Then he goes on to say that Delhi police is suffering from both sidism or balance-wad syndromes. One side has openly insulted our prophet, while the other side has been named to assuage BJP supporters and make it look like there was hate speech on both sides. So this is some kind of a balancing act is what Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi is alleging. Then he goes on to say, as for the FIR against me, we will consult the lawyer and address it as and when required. He says that we will not be intimidated by these tactics. Criticizing hate speech and giving hate speeches cannot be equated. So his point of view is that he was essentially using his Twitter ID and Twitter platform for criticizing hate speech that was made against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, rather than making hate speech against his political opponent. So he's trying to make that distinction, but he has put out an excerpt of the FIR saying that there is more detail that is needed in this FIR rather than just it being some kind of balancing act between the two sides.
Also, Maria, what exactly is it? Which remark of his has attracted the FIR? That's the question that he's put out in that tweet. Do we have any further details on exactly which remark of his has attracted that FIR?
Not really, Maha. We really do not know which is that comment or tweet of Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi, MIM chief, which has actually drawn this FIR against him. But he says that this is an FIR which has raised more questions than answers. I'm quoting a part of his tweet where he says, imagine an FIR about a murder where cops don't mention the weapon or that the victim bled to death. I don't know which specific remarks of mine have attracted the FIR. So perhaps his lawyers will be given more clarity as to what is that remark of his which has drawn this FIR against him.
Maria, also take us through all the police complaints now that the cops are working on as far as hate speeches are concerned.
Yes, so a series of FIRs have been filed against a number of people, which includes Mr. Owaisi and others, which includes Shadab Chauhan, a journalist as well, and many others, including a Maulana. And this has to do with them and their role on social media, where they have put out details which were seen as fake. At the same time, the comments that have been made by them was seen as inflammatory, and hence there is this FIR that has been filed. Perhaps in the next few hours we'll get more clarity as to what are these charges, and perhaps what is that specific tweet, remark of these individuals that has drawn this FIR of Delhi police against them.
All right, Maria, stay on with us. Anila Singh of the BJP is joining us on the phone line now. Anila Singh, Asaduddin Owaisi has tweeted saying that it appears that the Delhi police lacks the courage to pursue cases against Yati, Nupur Sharma and Naveen Jindal. This is why there is a delayed and weak response. And in that context, he's saying that there is this artificial attempt to try and balance things out and suggest that both sides have made a mistake by lodging an FIR against him as well. What would you say in response to that?
See, I've always maintained one thing about Mr. Owaisi. Mr. Owaisi puts each and every effort to portray himself as the biggest face advocate of Muslim community. And doing so, or I can say he wants to become the new Jinnah of Bharat. So he not only tries to instigate the feelings of his own community, but he ridicules other community as well. He targets and his statements are full of venom. And then he says, "Arey, mere ko to pata hi nahi, mere upar FIR kyun?" I mean,
But Anila Singh, the question Asaduddin Owaisi is asking is that the cops should tell him exactly what remark of his has been perceived as hateful. That has not been mentioned, and that is why he is questioning the Delhi police and their lack of courage is what he has put out in his tweet.
Is he so naive? Doesn't he know that if FIR is lodged, then definitely police has got evidences about it? And if he has not done anything wrong, then why is he so scared? Doesn't he have any trust in judicial system of our country? Doesn't he have any trust in the agencies of our country? Could he service serva ho jayenge kya?
Okay. All right. Anila Singh, many thanks for joining us with your perspective on this. Let me go across now to Maria, who has more details now. Maria, over to you.
Yes, so a series of tweets that have been put out by Asaduddin Owaisi on his timeline just a few minutes back, and he says that he will be consulting his lawyer, and he says clearly that this is some kind of intimidation tactic that has been used, and he will not be really giving in or giving up. He tries to make this point that criticizing hate speech and giving hate speeches are not the same, and hence what is being done by the Delhi police is some kind of balancing act to try and say that hate speech is being promoted and propagated from both the sides. This is, of course, coming in the wake of action that has been taken against Nupur Sharma, who made some very disparaging and derogatory comments against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, where and thereafter we saw that backlash that happened. Now, Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi is also making this point, and I'm going to highlight this point, Maha. He says, Yati and other gang, Nupur, Naveen, etc., have become used to there being no consequences. Weak action has only been taken when there was an outrage for weeks or international condemnation or when courts pulled up the police. He goes on to say that in contrast, Muslim students, journalists, activists have been put in prison for the crime of merely being Muslim. And Hindutva organizations have a culture where hate speech and extremism is rewarded with promotions. And then, you know, and the point that he is trying to make is that is this some kind of balancing that is being done by the powers that be to book both the sides when he was, all that he was doing was condemning hate speech rather than making one.
All right. So Asaduddin Owaisi questioning the grounds on which an FIR has been lodged against him, also asking the Delhi police what crime has he committed or what exact statement of his has been perceived as hateful and inciting any sort of tension between communities because of which this FIR has been lodged.